Okay, hello. Okay, there we go. All right. It is 6 o'clock and I will call to order the Plainfield Charter Township Board meeting for July 10th, 2023. We'll begin our meeting with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you could bow your head, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you today in humility and faith. We thank you for all you have given us and the many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance and strength. Show us the way and fill us with courage and wisdom. Help us remember your love and grace and to be faithful in your service to you. Give us the patience and understanding to face life's challenges with grace. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Thank you, everyone. At this time, I would like to just open the floor to public comment if there is any. If you'd like to do that, and I see Mr. Spalding's on his way, just give me the high sign and I'll call you up. You need to give us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes for commentary. Thank you.
That did it? Thank you. Art Spalding, 3301 Sunset Bluff. I think I missed the roll call, but I'm sure that you can take care of that at an appropriate time.
We haven't done roll call in 3 years.
Oh, it was on the agenda, so I thought maybe you were planning on doing it. That wasn't why I wanted to speak. I just thought you might be interested in that. In any event, the Plainfield Cemetery has had for a long time a storage building structure located about in the center of the cemetery. And over the years, it had become in significant disrepair. In fact, I think I would not be uncomfortable in saying that it had become an eyesore. In any event, the good news is that in June, the Building and Grounds Department re-sided the building and otherwise took care of all of the problems on the exterior of the building, and it now looks fresh and new and is a benefit to the cemetery and not a detriment. And I have also already expressed my thanks on behalf of the building department to Cameron, and I also wanted to come here tonight and express my thanks to the board for participating in seeing that this was accomplished. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Art. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the floor for public comment, and we'll move on to our agenda here, which is the review of our consent agenda. Without comments, questions, and concerns from the board, I would seek a motion for the approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda and accounts payable.
I move to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda and the accounts payable.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack. Support from Frank. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mrs. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Morrow?
Yes.
Ms. Postmus? Yes. And Mr. Coleman?
Yes. Okay, moving right along, item 7, I gotta scroll through all that. Item 7 on our agenda is a couple presentations. The first one will be from the Kent District Library. Cameron, did you want to start there?
Sure. I'll let the folks from KDL come up to the podium, and so thank you for coming every year and giving us that report. We've got a great partnership between our community and KDL. A number of communities do. We do like to brag that we are the only community with 2 official branches of KDL in our community that we maintain, and we're excited by that, and so glad to have our representatives here and staff from KDL. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Penny, and let you take it away.
Thank you. I'm Penny Weller, and I represent Walker Plainfield and Alpine Townships. So two of those 4 libraries are in Plainfield Township, and they're cool libraries. I want to say thank you for allowing me to represent you. It really is an honor to be a part of the KDL board and be associated with the townships that I represent. One thing that I'm really proud of this year is all of our libraries now have Wonder Nooks in, and I don't know if you're familiar with Wonder Nooks, but if you've been to one of the libraries, you've probably seen them. They all have a children's play area, Wonder Nook, and every one of them is different and associated with the library surroundings. Comstock Park is probably my favorite. I hate to have a favorite, but they are in an old fire barn, and they have a fire engine in there. I stopped down at that library earlier today, and there were 6 little kids just whooping it up in that fire truck, just having a ball. And we all know that that's the way that children learn, is through play. And all of our libraries have them now, and I'm so happy about that. We have a fantastic staff at both of our libraries, and as you know, they work well. Bill, I've kind of missed you at our board meetings, but,
Back.
okay, I'm gonna look forward to that.
I shall
So,
return.
thank you, thank you. And thanks to all of you for all you do for us. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Randy Goebel, Director of Engagement with Kent District Library. And first, I'd like to say thank you for your support and advocacy of the library. This is an incredible and vibrant community. The branches are super busy, and it's the only branch where I've seen someone walk up to the door with an alligator in their arms. Is it the Plainfield branch? I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's cool. But I just want to mention 2 quick things. I want to keep it short. First is, one of the things that we're committed to is helping people with financial stability, because it has a direct relationship on literacy in households. So we partner with chambers of commerce and other resources. And one of the resources we have at the library that a lot of people don't know about is LinkedIn Learning. It used to be called lynda.com. If you were to pay for it, well, normally you have to pay $40 a month to utilize it. And it enables people to do training on anything from Excel to programming to a variety of things. But it's free through the library. It's just one of the many things that we offer to help people earn a living wage and live their best lives. One other thing I wanted to mention, if you're at all baseball fans, I always leave a book recommendation. One of the books I most recently read is the autobiography of Willie Horton from the Detroit Tigers. And coincidentally, he's also going to be one of the guest speakers at the Literary Libations Gala this September. So if you are coming to the gala or interested in coming to the gala, you'll get to meet Mr. Horton himself. I have some information on the gala I can leave at the table up here, but we'd love to have you join us there and meet Mr. Horton and our other guest authors. With that, I'll turn it over to Penny. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for having us. Please don't be alarmed by my PowerPoint. I will still be quick, but I love pictures. So I feel that libraries in Plainfield Township serve especially now to bring the community back together. During COVID, so many of these kids were in their houses alone. So many of our elderly were in their houses alone. And it is so gratifying to librarians to see our numbers climb back up and to see the crowds in our libraries once again. Penny told you about the Wonder Nook. Here's a little drawing of what we've got going. At the Plainfield Township, we are representing the Motor Mile, and we've got the Plainfield Garage, and we've got a car that you can take its engine apart and put it back together. I now know where the pistons go and what the intake valve is. I'm very proud of myself, so you can learn that in our library if you like. Here's a little picture of what we've got going on at Plainfield. If you can see that. You can see our car engine there that comes apart. The kids love to sit in it and drive, though. You can see our garage, which is also a kitchen, and our 3 tables. All of these pieces were made by TBS, a Michigan company, and they make them by hand. custom made for us. These pieces were added by the Friends of the Plainfield Library. They are also fabulous, as you can see, and you can see that the one in the middle with the flower shop and the bank, that's to represent Plainfield Township. And on the other side, there's a book display. And we're very proud of our baby garden as well. That's just for babies to crawl around and play and get to know each other, and it's so nice to see the babies coming together. Here's that fabulous fire engine. And here's how much they love it. And my staff got all excited because middle schoolers were doing the exact same thing. Also at Comstock Park, we've used our book sale money to put in that wonderful sandbox, and my staff has planted that garden just with leftovers from their garden. So we've got a little storytime garden back there in a sandbox that's getting a lot of use. And our bells have been repainted, and I want to say thank you to Comstock Body Shop. They donated their time and all the supplies to refurbish our bells this year. So we're very excited about our community support. And this is a little bit of what's going on. This is our visitor count, and you can see it from 2021 up to where we are at 2023. And I'm going to tell you, June with Summer Wonder is off the chart, though I haven't got the figures yet. But it's going to be. And here's Comstock Park, that same curve happening there. And I wanted to show you where we compare. This is with checkout, circulation that's in the branch checkout. The line that's well above all the rest is Comstock Park, and that's comparing it to all the other small branches in KDL. And these are all the large branches in KDL. Again, the line that's on top is the Plainfield Township branch. We are widening the gap between us and Cascade, but they're trying really hard. You gotta give them credit. We also had a secret shopper come visit us this year, and I just had to share the results because they're all fives. We did lose 1 point on the public restrooms, but they're public restrooms. But the reason that we get this much circulation and the reason that we're getting all these visitors back is that our staff is fabulous. All of our surveys recount how they always get a smile in the Plainfield branch. They're helped by knowledgeable and friendly staff. We have wonderful programs going on, and this gives you a little bit about the kind of attendance we've been having this summer, and it is off the charts. Little Comstock Park had their Critter Barn visit outside and had 392 people come just to see this goat. So for everyone here, I'm asking you to join our end of the summer bash, which is coming up on August 7th, and we hope to have a drone come visit us. But the fire department will bring a truck, and we'll have food trucks and face painting, and the porters will be singing. And coming up soon, we have purchased a couple new outdoor musical instruments that are just waiting for the completely overwhelmed building and grounds crew to put up for us. This flower will be at the Comstock Park branch, and that was purchased entirely by book sale. And all these three are coming to the outside of the Plainfield Township branch. So good things more on the way. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of managing your two branches. Oh, and Mrs. Mason's first graders sent us these thank you notes for the outreach that we've been doing at their schools. And we've all looked at them, so we can keep them, but I just can't resist sharing first graders' artwork.
I have a question and a comment. First of all, I've noticed a change over the years. Maybe it's just obvious to others, but it's just dawned on me. It used to be that I looked at the library in terms of reading, but now I look at the library in terms of learning. And I think
Well said.
that's great. One question I had in the past taken advantage of your book sales, but now I'm just kind of, I don't know when they are. Do you have an answer to that?
I sure do. We actually have it posted in the branch with all of them for a year in advance, and it's also on our website. And if you like, I can personally send you an email with all the dates on it.
That would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Sue?
Penny, I just wanted to comment that not only do book sales generate things to help out the libraries, but Art Spalding and his family donated the bells at the Plainfield branch, and those bells are rung by many, many more than little
They
kids.
certainly
'Cause
are.
I walk by and I ring them every time. So thank you for thinking of the library for a gift in memory of your son.
And I think in the past, the library has seemed to be a more solemn place to go, but I feel like we've really moved to a more joyous place to go and a place for people to come together. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for what you all do for our youth. We know they all need it in today's world. So, thank you. Okay, next is a presentation from, and these are Dutch names, so I should be able to say them well, but that, I don't know. I'll try. Vredeveld and Hafner? Look at that. The heritage is there, huh?
Starts with Smith, that's pretty
It
easy.
starts with, although I don't know who this guy is standing there. It just doesn't work.
All
Okay,
right, before Doug gives his presentation, I was just going to say a few things. I'm Warren Smith, Finance Director, and the information presented here tonight is interesting. It's really good things and the results, but it's not as fun as dressing up and riding on fire trucks and goats and things like that, so just bear with us. So I did send a memo out to you guys highlighting some of the bigger things that occurred in 2022. And there's just a few of them that I wanted to point out. General fund, we budgeted a decrease to the fund balance of $141,000 and ended up having an increase of $614,000. So quite a big sway. And that's not uncommon for us because there's often times where we will budget for capital things that end up getting pushed off to further years and things like that. So that's part of the reason. But we also try to budget somewhat conservatively because we don't want to be the other way around. And it's much nicer adding funds to the fund balance rather than taking away. So just a couple of the reasons why we had that swing is we had an increase of $241,000 in tax revenues, just due mostly to higher taxable values. As pretty much all of us know, property values have been going up quite a bit, and so that's being reflected in the tax bills that people are paying as well. We also had a significant increase in state shared revenue. Just our share of it now that we're, since the last census and our population is up and the sales tax receipts throughout the state of Michigan have been up, has produced more revenues for us. Sewer fund had a net gain of $433,000, so that was pretty good for the sewer fund. Water fund had a gain of just under 13 million. That is due to a lot of things that still have dealing with grants and so on, funding from Wolverine, a lot of different things are going into that number. So it's not all from operations per se, and Doug will get into that a little bit deeper on our actual operating revenues or loss. 2022 was the first year that we used Cascade Township to do all of our building inspections. So we saw a significant decrease in our revenues by switching to that. And we also saw a decrease in our expenditures as well. But we're still kind of trying to work some of that out and how to allocate costs of that fund. So we'll be continuing to tweak how we charge things there. And Trails and Recreation Fund, we took in about $743,000 due to through taxes, and we didn't spend too much. We spent some on engineering and so on. However, the amount of funds that we didn't spend, we've been saving up so that we could do larger project this year with the Jericho Trail. And that's all I was going to point out for right now, and Doug's going to come up here and tell you a little bit more.
All right, thank you. Wait till you see some of these pictures. They're going to just be awesome. Thank you, first of all, to Warren he does a lot of work putting these financial statements together and preparing many schedules and work papers for the audit itself. And we're usually out here in late February actually doing the audit and had the bulk of it all wrapped up by then with a few loose ends here and there. But most of the time between then and the end of June is spent putting together this 100-plus page book to make it look nice. And Warren does a part of it, we do a part of it, and it goes back and forth, and we get it wrapped up. But it ends up being a good book that is presented to the Government Finance Officers Association for their award. And last year's audit did receive the award, which is included in here. And then we anticipate that we will also get the award for this current year for 22. So it's been submitted, it gets graded and all that stuff, and they tell you what little things you did wrong and you can get it fixed up, but it's a good product and looks good. But at the end of our audit, if you turn to page 1, this is all we do, is we test everything and look things over, and at the end we form an opinion on the financial statements. And you can see the opinions in the second paragraph from the top of page 1. It says the accompanying statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township, which is a good, clean opinion. It's an unmodified report, it's called, and certainly what you want to have when you have an audit completed. So congratulations to the township. And then if you have your books on page 5, this is management's discussion and analysis, one of the pieces that the township personnel put together, Warren does. And the financial highlights right at the top of that page kind of give you an overall picture of some of the bigger things that went on. The bigger things that went on during the year. I wasn't going to go through those, but those are some of the larger items. In addition to that, 22 was the first year that we had to implement a new accounting standard called GASB 87 on leases. So you'll see in the audit report, if you read every single page, that there's now a lease receivable for those water tower, the cell tower leases that are on top of your water towers. And there's leases receivable and an offsetting deferred inflow of resources. So we get the contracts, the lease agreements, and do a present value calculation. That's all a lot of fun. But to determine the amount that you're actually going to receive on those leases until they expire. So, and they expire way out there, 30 years or something, I don't remember exactly, but so that had to be implemented this year as well. Now for some pictures, if we figure out which one to click here. There we go. So these first couple slides, I'm not going to make you page through every page in the book, but these represent pages 17 through 19, the government-wide financial statements, and looking primarily just at the governmental activities, which is everything except your water and sewer activity. So on the bottom of page 17, you can see there's unrestricted fund balance, or net position rather, of about 6.9 million. Just the fact that it's positive is a good thing. Many communities throughout the state have negative net position because of pension and OPEB costs that have been accrued over the years. The township, Plainfield Township, does not have that situation. So you're in very good shape financially from that respect. These couple slides are in the next couple pages, 18 and 19, so you can, just a snapshot or a pie chart of where the revenue for all these governmental activities is coming from, and you can see 51% of it is from property tax, and about a third or 33% from state shared. State shared in 22 was a bit higher than it normally is, and that's because of the census adjustment that occurred in 2020. And the state finally did their makeup payment in 22. So it's a bit higher than it usually is, but a pretty good representative there. And then this page, this is expenses are categorized by function, these 4 functions, and program revenues are the direct revenues associated with each of the functions. For example, charges for services or various grants that you receive specific to these programs. So you can see it kind of gives you an idea of where that tax and state shared revenue is used. So you can see a lot of it's used in public safety. The program revenues in public safety are from the building department inspections that is received. General government is more charges for services and that kind of thing. I got to follow my notes a little bit too, so I don't forget anything. Okay, then the next. This is just kind of the bottom line, your net position, net assets of the governmental activities once again, but you can see the investment in capital assets has remained pretty consistent. And again, this does not include your water and sewer fund. And unrestricted continues to increase, and the restricted is up just a little bit. Restricted is money that you receive that is earmarked by an outside source to be used for specific projects. So, okay, then we'll get into the general fund, and this is on page, my note says page 22, but page 20 is the balance sheet of the governmental funds. The general fund is the left-hand column. You can see way at the bottom, third line from the bottom, your general fund unassigned or available fund balance is 5.1 million. Your total fund balance is 7.6 million, and 1.4 has been set aside already for the 23 budget. So you're projecting to use up fund balance in 23 of 1.4 million. So we'll see where it comes out. So this is just general fund revenues, strictly the general fund. The big ones are taxes and state shared revenues, and you can see, as Warren mentioned, that property taxes just increase steadily year after year, and that's based on, taxable value of the properties. And you can see, like I mentioned, the state shared revenue took a big jump this year. That I would expect that will come down just a little bit because of the makeup payment that was in there. For 23, it will come down just a little bit. And then on the other category, you see that's down quite a bit. Last year, you received COVID grant money, which was included in here, which caused the 21 and the 20 year to be a bit higher than what they normally are. So, and these are the general fund expenses or expenditures by each of these functions. You can see the general government is up just a little bit. That's primarily, well, wages go up every year, but it's primarily capital projects that cause this. They get spent in the general fund as an expenditure. And you can see public safety took a really big jump. There were new fire personnel added during the year, along with several different pieces of equipment that was added, which is capital outlay, which can fluctuate from year to year. Other than that, debt service, you see a function there, but your debt was actually repaid in 21. So in 22, your debt service in the general fund was 0. So you didn't have any of that. And no other big fluctuations there that I wanted to mention. One thing we do keep an eye on is your general fund unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures and transfers. And you can see that is pretty high at just under 50%, right around 50% this year, which is actually down from last year. Still a super strong financial position. You're in very good shape in the general fund. You have enough fund balance there, unassigned fund balance, to meet 50% of your annual expenditures every year. And then just a couple things of the water and sewer fund, pages 24 to 26. So you can see this is the sewer fund. This is operating results, so your operating income, which are the charges for services to your population, and then the related expenses. So it's been positive for the last several years, which is a good thing. It means that you are funding your depreciation, which is included as an operating expense. So nothing unusual there. I did note that it's not on this chart, but cash is down a little bit in the sewer fund, and that's because mostly due to capital outlay and bond payments that are funded with your cash. So not a bad thing, but cash is down just a little bit, still in a really good position. And then the water fund. Water fund is showing an operating loss for each of these last 5 years that we have in here. However, the operating loss for '22 was just over $1 million, but depreciation is about $2.8 million, which is called a non-cash operating loss. So cash is actually down only a little bit, and you're still good with cash at year end. You're still at 11 million in the fund, so it's nothing to worry about. But I always like to try to cover the total operating expenses with operating revenues is what we would really like to see. But I know you have a lot going on in the water fund with all the capital outlay and the PFAS settlement and all that stuff going on in there. And you can kind of see that here. So the invested in capital asset the top line on the red line has gone up a lot, and that's primarily because of that project. And unrestricted is down just a teeny bit. So nothing to be worried about or nothing unusual, but, well, the settlement is unusual, I guess. I shouldn't say nothing unusual. And then just by way, a couple things in the footnotes to the financial statements. Page 36, there were in the general fund 4 minor overages that we have to report to the state. They're very minor, they're less than 10%, which is what the state uses as their criteria for minor or not, but we do still have to report them. So none of them were over that 10% threshold. And I just wanted to also direct you to page 41 and 42, which is your debt footnote. You're, again, in the governmental activities or general fund, long-term debt is no longer, it's all paid off. But on page 41, this is all business type activities, water and sewer funds. And you can see there was no new debt issued, and about 1.2 million was paid during the year, so in debt payoffs. So I think that was all I really wanted to mention as far as all of these many pages. If you have looked through it and have other questions, I'd be more than happy to try to address those. Otherwise, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything? Jack does.
Has the trend on retiree liability gone down?
Are you talking about the OPEB plans specifically? Sure. Let me find the page we can refer to here.
21 has got the actual liability of 1.36 million, right? So what we had for the previous year.
If you go to page 48, you can see a trend of the last 5 years of that. And yes, the OPEB liability at the end of the year, in '21 it was 1.6 million, and this year it's just under 1.4 million. So it has, the OPEB liability has decreased somewhat.
And Jack, I think to that point too, is you talk about those OPEB requirements that a lot of communities have. Ours is significantly less. We do have a little bit of retiree health care requirements that we have that will be ongoing for some time. But the fact that at 1.4 or something million was something that if we had to, we could pay out of our unrestricted fund balance today is something that a lot of communities could only dream about. You know, they've got underfunded pension plans that require, exactly. Yeah. So I appreciate you pointing that out, because that 1.4 is not a price tag we'll ever have to pay at one time, but that's if we did, and we could if we had to. So that shows how strong the financial situation is.
A while back, I remember we did a study on what it would cost us. Eventually, if we kept going the way we were going, it was like 71 million in right-of-way was a big eye-opener. So,
Yeah.
One question though.
Well, it wasn't really unexpected revenue. We kind of do expect it. It's like, as Doug's slide pointed out, you could see the tax revenues steadily increase every year, so that's pretty common. But on the flip side, our expenses generally are going up every year too. So that just helps us, for the most part, try to keep up with rising costs as well. And we're seeing significant cost increases this year. And we're projecting it for next year with all the inflation going on, or that occurred. A lot of those prices are just now hitting us, and we're seeing a lot of our costs being significantly higher than what we saw in the past. So I don't think we'll have any, it's not like we're gonna have a pool of money access to sit on. Right.
If I could jump in on that too, and Doug, I'm gonna steal your slide deck here for a second and go back. It's great having two mouse to control it. I can jump in and control it when I want to. Okay, so this is the revenue for the general fund. 10 years ago when I started, I referred to Plainfield's general fund as revenue situation as a three-legged stool, because it had property taxes, state shared revenue, and then the other, which a big piece of that is franchise fees from cable companies. And that three-legged stool is getting pretty wobbly. And that's something that we have to keep an eye on too. As the property taxes steadily and incrementally, you look at this graph and it is just step by step by step. And a lot of that is the way that the tax code is written. Proposal A has a lot of impact on that. So it is very stable and upward. At least right now for us, it's upward. But the other two, they're all over the place. And particularly that other category, Doug referenced the one-time dollars that we've received that fall under the other, but the biggest piece remains those franchise fees for cable, use of right-of-way, which have shrunk tremendously in the last number of years as cable companies have shifted models, customers have moved away from traditional cable. Maybe they're still using internet, but there's been a huge shift in that industry, which does have some impact on the revenue that our general fund sees. So that's something that we need to keep in mind too as we look at revenue sources. How do we best serve the residents through the resources available to us, and where are those resources coming from?
Appreciate that.
Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Warren. Year after year, stellar stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will move on to new business. Our first item is to consider the design and construction engineering services summary submitted by Prine and Newhoff for the 2024 construction of the Alpine Township cast iron water replacement for Westgate Phase 2. Cameron?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Kevin Gritters just got back from vacation. I thought that'd be really kind of mean to make him come join us tonight, especially when I think I can address what our projects are. I don't think he'd take time out to join us tonight. Basically, I want to point out that we're entertaining our first two projects here in the water system that have nothing to do with PFAS. So congrats for that. So I wanted to kind of put it out there to remind everyone that we're getting back to what normal used to be for us, which is replacing existing infrastructure in our system to make sure it's reliable and good for our customers, and then expanding our system as needed for that reliability as well. So those are the two projects that we're going to look at tonight. The first one is actually in Alpine Township, but on our water system. And we've done this a few times now, but we work really well with Alpine Township on coordinating this effort. And it's actually a three-way coordination between Plainfield, Alpine, and the Kent County Road Commission, because we look to maximize dollars as much as possible. So with one project, we take a dig once approach. We have the water main replaced, Alpine replaces their sewer, and then the road commission does a reconstruct of the road. And so this is very well coordinated. We have it planned out for, as you've seen Kevin Gritter's 20-year plan. This has been coordinated for quite some time. These are things that have been on the to-do list, frankly, since I started here. We've just been picking off roads as we can, one at a time. And so this is the next one in the Westgate phase in Alpine Township. So that's what this project is. We'll get it all under one contract so that it's easier to get all that work done at once. It's a whole lot less inconvenient for residents to do it all at one time. It's horribly inconvenient at the time. There's no two ways about that. But if you're doing a water project or a sewer project or a road project, it's inconvenient. So to get it done at once, and then it should be buttoned up, and at least the water and the sewer should be good for at least 50 years, hopefully beyond. The road will need some touch-up at some point before then. Before we move to a motion or anything, I just want to speak to the second one really quickly. The second one is the Cuts Hill Redundant Supply Loop. So this is basically new water main that helps our system be better. I guess that's the simplest way I can say it. So we have a water main that leads up to the Cuts Hill pump station. Should anything happen to that section of main or that area, we could have a massive portion of our water system completely shut down and cut off until it can be fixed. It's not nearly to the scale, but last year, you probably recall, there was a section of the Detroit area water system where basically, a couple million customers were without water because of a similar situation where one massive water main had to be shut down or had contamination, and so you had a serious effect to a massive water system because there was no redundancy there. And a system like that, I don't know that you could build this type of redundancy, but we have that possibility to construct secondary mains that provide better flow and efficiency to our system, but also provide redundancy. So we've got fail-safes should something happen to one water main. Water is going to continue to supply that portion, which is now a very large portion of our system. We've grown a lot in that area. We need to have that redundancy to ensure that we can provide service uninterrupted for our customers. So those are the two projects before you. Again, this is kind of getting back to the boring same old that we used to do before we started, extending 25 miles of water main. But that's good. Let's get back to what we used to do and refining our system to make sure it is the system that our customers expect.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. At this time, I'd open the floor for any public comments, and we kind of lump those two together. We'll separate them in a minute, but for public comment purposes, I'll open the floor for either item if anybody has any. Okay, not seeing anyone, I'll close the floor for public comment. And then for board purposes, remember the first item is the Westgate project that we should discuss first. So Bill, do you have anything for that?
No questions.
Okay, Kathy?
No, I don't think so. Let me ask maybe a really obvious question, but I'm sure that you and Prine and Newhoff prioritize this, and I'm sure that there are other projects that are similar to this that are upcoming. But could you just speak to how do we choose the priority from this, because there are others?
Yeah, I think to boil it down really simply, we rely on our expert engineers between Rick Soleil and the engineers at Prine and Newhoff to determine what the priority is. But more generally, the priority is hitting a couple of things. So, and we see that here, the Westgate project is similar to a project that we've been doing in Plainfield with what's the area called Hills and Dales. So it's the area between north of Plainfield, around Northview High School. If you can picture that area south of the high school, that neighborhood is the Hills and Dales neighborhood. We've been doing that as well. So we've been alternating and coordinating with Alpine to try to do, for a while we were doing a project every other year, one in Westgate, one in Hills and Dales. So there's some of that. We're getting back to doing that replacement, and we've picked those two particular neighborhoods because they're two of the oldest on our water system, and they're two with the highest incidence of main breaks. So we're hitting the areas that have the biggest flaws in our system, making sure that they have brand-new water main. It not only helps enhance the customer service, but it also reduces cost. All those water main breaks are expensive. So, sorry, to get to the second part, the redundant supply with all the additional service north end of our system, our engineers really feel that this redundant supply is a highest priority to make sure that we don't run into trouble there.
Figured that, but it's nice to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Kathleen?
All set.
Okay. Susan?
I'm all set, but also very pleased to hear the process that we've started on a couple of years ago is continuing. And I assume that when we get Hills and Dales done, there's another area that we're going to turn to?
There will always be that next neighborhood, and that's why we have a 20-year plan. But yes, right now, in terms of priority, Hills and Dales, Westgate are the two highest. Then there's other areas that are kind of right behind it. But as we move along, water mains expected life might be 70 to 80 years, hopefully, if things are good. Sometimes they don't last that long. But generally, a neighborhood has the same age water main because it was built at one time by one developer or one entity put all that in. And so you start to see water main failing in one particular neighborhood about the same time. So it makes sense to categorize it by neighborhood, and that's a lot of the work that we've looked at in the past too.
Have you had responses or comments on the project at Northville?
From residents, yes. That was probably not one of our better, one of our smoother projects, I would say. That one, we will have a good product in the end. We will have a good water main, sewer, storm water, and a road, but definitely with the headaches that we did not want, headaches that we generally don't get with most of our projects, or even with that particular contractor is not performed in that way in the past either. But we've worked through that, and we will get everything remedied for our residents.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Jack?
I've noticed that these two together represent in excess of $4 million. And I thought, ooh, that's a lot of money. And then I look at our 2022 balance sheet, and we've got in excess of 11 million cash, so we're okay.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you. Frank?
All set.
All righty. So again, bringing into focus, we're looking for a motion just specific to the Westgate project at this time.
I move to approve the design and construction engineering services summary submitted by Prine and Newhoff for the 2024 construction of the Alpine Township Cast Iron Water Replacement Westgate Phase 2, Kittery Drive, Bowden Pines Place, and Bingham Court in the amount of $1,538,000.
I second that.
That number. Thank you.
Second that, or
$1,538,400. Okay, very good. All right. Support?
yes,
Okay. Support from Bill. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brinkman,
yes,
Mrs. Morrow,
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Ms. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Postma, yes.
Okay, so is there any discussion for the other project, the Cuts Hill? Okay, then I'll seek a motion for that project at this time.
I move to approve the design and construction services summary submitted by Prine and Newhoff for the 2024 construction of the Cuts Hill Pump Station Redundant Supply Loop in the amount of $2,518,200.
Support.
Thank you, Jack. Support already from Frank. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Morrow,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman,
yes.
Ms. Postma, yes, Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Okay, Cameron, superintendent comments, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tom. A couple comments. So we had a beautiful 4th of July weekend, extended weekend this year. Usually our peak time at Versluis Park, and we did have some rainy days, but According to the report we received from our sheriff's deputies that patrol the park for us, the 4th, which was a beautiful hot day, it was very busy. The parking lot was 100% full by noon, and ancillary parking outside at the banks, people were walking in, and so the officer who was there estimated that we probably had over 800 visitors at one time in the park. But even with that, there were some medical issues, but otherwise there were no major incidents, nothing that rises to true law enforcement type of involvement. But it was good to see that a large number of people being able to enjoy that park at one time. It really is an expansive park, even though everyone wants to be right on the beach. There's a lot of room to sprawl in that park as well. So glad to see that, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of busy weekends yet. It's been a hot summer, and so that's been a popular place to be. Thank you again to Warren and our auditors for going through the audit report. It's good to see that the township's still on good financials footing. And, you know, Jack alluded to the pension obligation. So a lot of these are decisions that the township has made decades ago. You know, as we talk about retirement requirements of whether if we have a pension obligation, that's a decision that the township made back in the 90s and then set the township on good footing. Subsequent decisions on other retirement benefits that have put the township in good financial position, but it's not just the OPEB, it's a number of decisions along the way. It's that accumulation of debt that some communities run into that, as was pointed out tonight, our general fund essentially has zero debt. We do have some debt in our utilities, but that's pretty typical to bond for projects from time to time to keep your cash flow smooth. And so we're in really good shape, and that's really due to a lot of prudent decisions of those sitting here and those who came well before us. So thank you for that. As we talk about the financial cycle, early on in my marriage, my wife learned about the sports cycle. She found out that there's always some season, right? Baseball runs into football, runs into basketball, runs into baseball again. And she was just kind of dumbfounded by that. There was never a break for her, right? And that's how the financial cycle works here too. So Warren is just wrapping up the audit, but he's already busy working on the budget. And so the seasons shift and overlap each other. So that's what we're working on next. Preparing budget numbers now. We will be looking at our budget for the first time as a board, second meeting in August. So that's our first budget workshop, which means staff are readily putting together numbers. The first round is really a lot of work on Warren's behalf, a little less on staff, and then when we get to the second piece, that's a lot more on staff and then more on compiling it. As we look at that predictability of how much revenue and expenditures, we always have this imbalance, right? We budget ourselves into the red because we know we're not going to spend it all. Over the years, Warren and I have looked at how can we minimize that so it doesn't look like we're being, first of all, that we don't know what we're doing, that we're presenting a budget to you that we know that we're not going to spend it all. Problem is we don't know where. So we've done a lot to reduce that over the years. We've taken, say, for example, in the general fund, every department had their own office supply line budget. And no one wants to be over budget, so everyone budgets enough. Well, then there's always this accumulation. So we took all that and put it into one. And same with legal fees, and same with other things. So we've done a number of things over the years. The next thing that we're gonna bring to you is the way that we budget capital improvements, because that is the one biggest piece that makes that fluctuation happen on the bottom line. So you see a budget that calls for being $1 million in the red. Well, it's not truly $1 million in the red because a lot of those are capital projects from a prior year that for whatever reason didn't happen that year, and so we pushed them forward to the next year. So say we budgeted for a fire truck, and turns out fire trucks are 18-month lead time to, as we found, right? There's a long lead time. Well, okay, we didn't spend the money on the fire truck that year, so that money pushes forward to the next year. But on the books, that shows as a deficit that next year. You have the money in the bank, you plan to spend it. So we're looking at changing how we do some of our capital, the budgeting for capital, and treat it more like we do the trails or the sidewalks, where it becomes a separate fund, And we're gonna take money from the general fund, we're gonna put it into that pot, and then that pot's gonna fund the capital. But it's not gonna be reflecting back every year on the general fund in a way that makes look like our general fund, that we don't have enough money to cover our expenses. Because, I don't know about you, I always get a little queasy showing that budget looks like we're outspending our resources, which isn't the case, but that's how it looks, and it gets a little hard to explain that to the public sometimes. Well, don't worry, we have the money. But that's, so you understand what's going on, and we can explain to it, but I think we can budget better that more appropriately shows this is money that we're setting aside for capital. We're gonna take it from this bucket, we're gonna put it in that bucket. And then we're gonna draw from that bucket for our capital expenditures. And if there's leftover, it's gonna remain in that bucket. And it's not gonna go back into the bigger pile of general fund, if that makes sense, if that analogy helps. So we'll be talking through that in the budget session, and hoping you understand how this is gonna look, how this will reflect. And it's a little early to say that that's gonna fully correct that bottom line difference, but we think that's gonna go a long way to helping get those numbers a little straightened out. Last item, just a reminder, July is a one meeting month. August, we go back to 2. So just so everyone's clear, you can show up here in 2 weeks, but you're gonna be hanging out by yourself. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Board comments. Frank, you want to start us off?
I'm all set, thanks.
All right, you're welcome. Jack?
I want to show my appreciation to the staff, and especially Warren today for all the work he has done. I don't know whether you all appreciate what a gem we have in Warren, but he's been reliable for year after year after year. He's accurate in his reporting, and he's clear in his presentation. And I just appreciate you, Warren, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. Susan?
I concur with that because these are numbers that we don't usually deal with in our personal lives. And Warren always takes time to explain everything to everybody. A couple other things have come up that I need to share with you. In Comstock Park, they're renovating, reinvigorating the Mill Creek Days. I'm passing out some of these, the communicator from Comstock Park, and it will be, oh, I'll put these over by the, yeah. Thank you. Mill Creek Days used to be a very active, fun time in Comstock Park, and last year we tried to do it and we got rained out on the first day. So this year we're all set and ready to go, and I've forgotten who's in charge of the weather. Nobody will speak up, but we're ready to go, and I hope that all of you can realize the importance of Comstock Park in the picture of Plainfield Township. And they have a fantastic history in that part of the world over there. And if you'll look at that, there are things starting on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The Friday schedule is not as much because that's called Community Day, and it's organized by the school system. They give out backpacks, and the parents come, and it's a very fun day. And then it concludes at night with movies in the park. And so that's not really part of the DDA. The DDA, Downtown Development Authority, is chairing this project, this 3 days long, and they are also funding it. Some of us are I'm going to be in charge of the arts and crafts, and that's on Saturday from 10 o'clock until 4. And so far, I planned for 20 spaces, and I'm at 26 spaces right now. So we're just going to keep adding on. We're all very, very excited about that. On Thursday, for the first time, we're going to try something called a pop-up market. And the good thing about that is that none of us have to plan anything. We've advertised it, and I'm trying very, very hard to get it to you that this pop-up market is not garage sale, but anything else, vegetables, fruit, furniture, whatever it is that you would like to bring to sell. And you bring it to the park, to the West Pavilion, the big pavilion, and you'll be finding your own spot in that area. Now, there'll be other things going on, but the pop-up market is meant to be in that western end with the big pavilion. And that is Thursday, August 10th, Friday, the 11th, and Saturday, the 12th. And on Saturday, our fire trucks will be in the parade. We've got a 5K run. And some of these events are generating some sort of a small amount of income. With the arts and crafts people, the fee for a booth is $10. And we're hoping, and all the income off of that is being donated to Comstock Park Schools to their debt fund for the lunch program for people that needed to be fed and it weren't part of the budget in the school. And so that's one very, very exciting thing. Another thing I wanted to mention was that I was not one of the 800 people at Versluis Park on the 4th of July, but Coffee with the Cop has been meeting at Versluis. And one day, even though we had to stop it because it was so noisy, they were changing out the grills. Who thinks about changing the grills in a park? But the grills that they were pulling out were awful. It was amazing. So I talked to Bill Fisher about who thinks about changing out grills. And they not only thought about them, but before, for several years, they've been stockpiling them. And so these grills will be, this is only the beginning of the replacement mode of the parks. And you never know how much a park means just to an area until it's not there. So Gold Dust Park has been a favorite of people who live in that area, and they've been very, very sad because only a very small, all the equipment went out, all the play equipment was taken out for a variety of reasons, and we don't want to go into those. But the new stuff came, and it was only about a half of what it had been before. But they should have put a sign up that said, this is only half of the project, because tonight we approved $52,000 for additional play equipment at Gold Dust Park. And I didn't know it was a two-phase project until my phone rang a lot. And that's when Bill Fisher said, just tell him there's a phase 2. And we're very excited about that. And also there may be what could be called a phase 3, because they used to have some kind of seating out there. And so far in the legends that all of us saw in our packet, there was no seating in there. But Bill said it will be the picnic tables that have the metal, the painted metal things. They'll be much more durable than the wooden ones. They're phasing out the wooden ones. So, and the last thing is to remind you that the senior program has their ice cream social. I don't have the date in front of me, but all of you are registered as scoopers, okay? And anybody else who wants to come be a scooper that day. Anyway, please, I apologize for not having the date for you, but I'm sure Christine will be knocking on our door asking us if we're available. So thank you very much. I hope everybody's having a great summer, and go to Mill Creek Days. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Kathleen, do you have anything?
I'm all set.
All right, Kathy?
Just a comment. It's so nice to have a newspaper again. You don't see these anymore, so.
All right, thank you. Bill?
I just wanted to wish Steve good luck in his big event that's coming up, the triathlon. When you're swimming across Versluis Park, make sure you keep your mouth sealed. So that's quite a park. So good luck, Steve. Kathy, you asked about the deal that came out with the tax bills. There is 2 educations in there. One is for 6 mills to the state. The other one is for the schools that we have, Rockford and so forth. That's how it is. I checked that. So that you had that question. everything seems to be going okay. Great, Warren's done a great job. I think my wife had her hand up there. Did you, Barb?
No, we can do that when we're done. Sorry, but the floor's not open for that. Okay, so are you all set, Bill?
Well, I just wanted to thank Warren for his good work in getting through this audit, because that's always a tough time, I know, and the auditors did a great job this time. Did great, Warren. And, no, everything came out real good on Memorial Day.
Okay, thank you. So Warren already said thanks to you, and your entire team. Convey that to everyone, please. But I also want to say thanks to Cameron and the rest of the team for being very proactive with our new development with Wolverine Worldwide. It's unfortunate we're in that situation, but I appreciate the fact that you and staff and the attorneys were all over that. So thank you very much. Yeah, with that, Sue, you covered that's okay. The Comstock DDA, Rich Fry is the chair of that group, and he has worked very hard at putting together the Mill Creek Days. Last year, yep, we got washed out. Easiest way to say that. But this year, we hope for better weather and hope everybody attends. Should be a great time. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.